dancing fearless.
This video is about what Jordan Peterson calls the greatest idea there ever was. This fundamental idea is the key to building a better world. I will compare Jordan Peterson's greatest idea with Rudolf Steiner's greatest idea found in his philosophy of freedom. Jordan Peterson and Rudolf Steiner place a high value on the power of truth. The way to bring about a better world is through the power of truth.
Don't underestimate the power of truth. There's nothing more powerful. The idea is that nothing brings a better world into being than the stated truth.
Rudolf Steiner says that inner truth, the truth of the individual, empowers us with the conviction needed to be effective in the world. Truth that comes to us from outside always bears a stamp of uncertainty. We are only convinced by what appears to each of us inwardly as truth. Only truth can give us assurance in developing our individual powers. Whoever is tormented by doubts finds his powers weakened. If baffled by a world full of riddles, he cannot find an aim for his activity. We all know from experience that we are not very effective in the world if we are filled with doubts. To be effective, we need conviction. It is our own inner truth, the truth that arises from within, the truth as you know it, that gives us conviction. Truth guides and empowers our action, making us effective in the world. Now let's look at Jordan Peterson's greatest idea he has put in the form of a proposition. It needs to be presented as a proposal so each of us can examine it and test it in our lives to see if it works or not. An independent thinker is not interested in blindly accepting whatever Peterson or Steiner says. It needs to be tested. Here is a video called An Animated Intro to Truth, Order, and Chaos.
Okay, so there's this spirit of good, let's say. And what the spirit of good does is act in the world on the potential of the world to generate the actuality of the world. And the Judeo-Christian proposition is that if you confront the potential of the world with good in mind, using truth, truthful communication, then the order that you extract is good. And then that's echoed in Genesis when God is using the word and he creates cosmos out of potential, and every time he does that he says, and it was good. Which is, I think, it's so interesting because there's a proposition there, and the proposition there is that if you encounter potential with truth, the cosmos you create is actually good. Well, that's just an absolutely overwhelming idea.
Yep.
It's like if it's true, it's the greatest idea there ever was.
Yeah.
Peterson begins with the spirit of good. He says the spirit of good acts on the potential of the world to generate the actuality of the world. This fundamental spiritual principle then becomes the proposition. If you confront the potential or chaos of the world with good in mind, using truth, then the order you create is good. The greatest idea is that if you have good in mind and use truth, you can transform chaos into order and the result will be good. This is a plan of action for living an ethical life and creating a better world. Now let's compare this to the greatest idea in Rudolf Steiner's philosophy of freedom. The philosophy of freedom describes the ideal human as an ethical individualist. The highest principle of the ethical individualist is to express their ethical ideas in life. In order to express their truth in life, the ethical individualist uses Jordan Peterson's proposition. He confronts a life situation that is in need of change with good in mind and uses truth to transform the situation into something better. Jordan Peterson's proposition is described in the philosophy of freedom as moral intuition, moral imagination, and moral technique. The ethical individualist uses three kinds of truth: universal truth, individual truth, and scientific truth. We confront a life situation with good in mind using moral intuition. Moral intuition is the ability to select a particular ethical principle for each single life situation. There are universal truths of good found in all religions and cultures. These universal truths are often shared, such as the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule, do to others as you would have them do to you, is found in most religions and cultures around the world. There is a yet higher conduct that does not start from one specific ethical principle in each case, but sees a certain value in all ethical principles, and in each case asks whether one or another principle is more important. The highest level of individual life is that of conceptual thinking without reference to any specific perceptual content. We determine the content of a concept through pure intuition on the basis of a conceptual system. When we act under the influence of pure intuitions, the driving force of our action is pure thinking. It is customary in philosophy to call pure thinking reason. The ethical individualist uses pure reason to select the ethical principle. This is the kind of pure reason used by philosophers. Pure reason is not biased by our established character or our habits of thought. It means our deed will not be a stereotypical action or conform to moral norms. Universal ethical truths such as do good to your neighbor or live to further your well-being establish good intentions but do not give us a specific plan of action. It takes imagination to form a specific goal. Moral imagination is the ability to translate a universal ethical principle into a specific goal. The universal truth is individualized into a specific plan of action and becomes individual truth. When the motive to an action exists in universal conceptual form, there still remains to be found, in each particular case, the concrete idea of the action. Concrete ideas are formed by us on the basis of our concepts by means of the imagination. What the free spirit needs in order to realize his principles, in order to assert himself in the world, is moral imagination. By having good in mind, the spirit of universal truth, and by creatively forming our own goal, which is our individual truth, we are empowered to overcome all resistance. He will, of himself, strive for moral ideals, provided his moral imagination is sufficiently active to inspire him with the intuitions which give strength to his will to overcome all resistance. The third part of the proposition is the order you create is good. Now that we have a goal, the next step is to implement that goal into the world. How can we implement our goal in a way that the results are good? My action becomes good if my intuition, steeped in love, fits in the right way in the interrelationships between things, the world continuum. This can be experienced intuitively. My action becomes evil if that is not the case. There is an already existing order to the world. If we want to change the order or move it in a new direction, we need to understand the existing order. Moral technique is the ability to transform the world according to our goal without violating the natural laws by which things are connected. To be able to transform something according to a moral goal, to give a new form or new direction, one must understand how it has worked until now. This part of effective moral activity depends on knowledge of the particular world of phenomena with which one has got to deal. We will find this knowledge in a branch of science. Moral action requires, in addition to moral intuition and moral imagination, the ability to alter the world without violating the natural laws by which things are connected. This ability is moral technique. The world is a continuum of events moving from the past to the present and into the future. This continuous succession of events occur according to natural, social, and political laws. There are fields of science that study these laws, such as history, psychology, sociology, and political science. When we want to change a life situation into something better, we are dealing with an already existing situation that first needs to be fully understood. Anyone who has been a successful gardener knows that it is necessary to understand the basic laws of growing plants. It is the same in every field. I would say that Jordan Peterson and Rudolf Steiner agree that the greatest idea there ever was is that if you have good in mind and you use truth, you can transform chaos into order and the result will be good. Even though they each explain it in their own way, I think the basic proposition is the same. If you would like to see more videos about Jordan Peterson and Rudolf Steiner, subscribe to the YouTube channel.